When I think about Jerry, two words come to mind: kind and generous. He touched so many lives and always brought a sense of joy and happiness to everyone. I have many friends who use Jerry as photographer for their own simcha. They always commented on how Jerry made everyone feel relaxed and comfortable. There was never a harsh word, and he did everything with a big smile. And the photos always came out great because he was a consummate professional. In fact, I think Jason takes care of that also. Because there are a couple of weddings, I'm interjecting now, a couple of weddings that friends of mine and Jason recently did, and they were so pleased and delighted that he was so friendly and easy to get along with. So I think it's a tribute to you and to your father. But it wasn't only his excellent work that people loved, it was his easy manner and disposition. In fact, I have a friend who approached me during the Shiva in Miami. He came out of respect for Sandy. When he realized that Jerry Meyer had died, he was surprised because he had no idea that Jerry was Sandy's brother. He told me that Jerry photographed his first wedding. I asked if he still had the pictures. He said no. I burned them. But they came out great. Jerry's generosity manifested itself in so many ways. Many people came to him for financial help, and he never said no. He was always there for everybody. Personally, Jerry helped Sandy and myself both financially and with invaluable business advice. As is well known, I wrote food in capital letters here. Anyway, food was a big deal in the Meyer family. Okay, I'm going to interject this. Sam said I should take it out, but I'm going to do it anyway. The thing is, at our first Sheva Bracha, which was in a Chinese restaurant, everybody ordered, and then I ordered, I said, I'll have the chicken and rice or whatever, and they said, no, you can't order that. The other guy just ordered that. I said, what's the difference? So he says, we all order different things and we share everything. Not only do they share everything, they have a long arm and a fork. So they go all the way around and go into other people's plates. But I'm just saying, after that, I would sort of protect my plate with my hands, so in case of an invasion. That's right, that's what it was. Personally, food was a big deal in the Meyer family. He shopped at many different stores to prepare for Shabbos. So here goes the list. Jerry went to G&I for challah, Shores for coleslaw, Mazon for potato kugel and fried chicken, Zamex for meltaways, Neil Mart for shishlik, whatever that is. What? Shishlik? Isn't that on Netflix? Okay. And he always went to Brach to purchase the meat. Not from the showcase like regular people. You go to the back. The back is where they keep the good stuff. And Jerry never felt this was a chore because he always did this with a smile and he wanted to make his family happy. You cannot just say the word Jerry. It was always Essie and Jerry. They worked together and they were a team. Even in Boynton, they shared one car, and that is a real partnership. Jerry also was a tremendous celebrity. He could not enter a room or a restaurant and not be bombarded by people who loved him. After all, he photographed all the simchas that these people had, and when they saw Jerry, they relived those happy moments. In fact, I remember walking with Essie into the back of a restaurant, and she would wait there, well, not so patiently, but sort of patiently, to wait till Jerry went through the whole crowd and shook hands with everybody, and 15 minutes later we could order. Anyway, so everyone knows that Jerry's one of a kind, a wonderful husband, father, and a terrific loyal friend. The term chaver really sums up the essence of Jerry Meyer. Jerry was always somebody that I respected and admired, and I will miss his presence in our family. I also want to interject something that's not in the speech. This was a very difficult time for the very close family when they were in New York. And the fact that Ilana and Jason, and also Essie, of course, were there for 24 hours, day in, day out, attending to father and mother, and they were so compassionate and so caring. That's not always the case, and I think you both all deserve a tremendous tribute for that, because that's very moving and it shows good character. So, Essie, I think maybe you did something right. You know? Okay. Anyway, Jerry. With Jerry, right?
It was all Jerry.
No,
Oh, come on, you had some part. Okay, thank you.
Essie and Jerry and Essie's children, Ilana and Jason, and the grandchildren who are not here, but on their behalf, I thank everyone for coming out this evening. It means so much to all of us, and you should know how much it means to us to have this opportunity to commemorate the life of our friend, Hechaver Yom Tov and Hechaver Abraham, Zichrono Livracha. That last part is very hard to imagine as being the reality. It's Zichrono Livracha, but that is why we are here. The first time I met Jerry was in 1986 when my sister turned bat mitzvah. I did not know who this man with a full face and full goatee was, why he was turning my head this way and this way, laughing with my parents, who seemed to delight in my discomfort. They seemed to go back a long way, but who somehow eventually got the shot that he wanted, and of course the photos came out perfect. I did know his name because it was on my parents' wedding album, and since they clearly knew him since at least 1972, I asked my parents to share with me some brief personal reflections. So my father, being a rabbi, knew how to be brief. He said Jerry was a humble professional. He was a fanatical Mets fan. He made our albums for us since we could never choose the right photos. He always knew what was right. We admired and respected him. He was a great professional photographer and a great friend. My mother shared his studio in Queens was filled with wonderful pictures he had taken, beautifully framed and arranged. He took photographs of our family's smachot from 1972 through 2010. We always loved seeing Essie at his side, both professionally and personally. They were a great team on and off the dance floor. We trusted Jerry's judgment about what to include in our albums. He worked wonderfully with both young and old. His friendliness, warmth, and vitality permeated his work. Until Essie and Jerry moved here, that was how I knew Jerry. So while his family members and friends will tell you more about Jerry the man, I want to finish my remarks by telling you about Jerry the balabas. Jerry was a presence here. Jerry is still very much a presence here. It is hard for us to realize what his absence will mean to our shul. I can't recount all the stories Jerry told me about his life outside of being a photographer, but when he first came down and was asked to take some pictures at an event, his first reaction was, "I'm retired, I'm never taking another photo." But he showed up with a tiny Snap-O-Matic camera and took photos anyway, and then he got, much to my son's delight, an iPhone X, and never stopped taking photos, including the great classic of our son Yehuda, the day he started putting on film with a cup of orange juice in one hand, a donut in the other, and a smile like only Jerry Meyer could coax out of him. I don't know how many people in the shul my kids know by name, but those of my kids who came to shul regularly, absolutely, they all knew Jerry. With our daughter Eliza, he shared a very personal wave, which they would share one to another when they were in shul at the same time. Our son Yonatan loves baseball, and Jerry invited him to their house to show him all of their baseball memorabilia. When Jerry's father passed, he told me that he was grateful to his father for having given him a chance to have his career. He didn't think he could have made it to Minyan 3 times a day while he was working, though I suppose at all those weddings, Mincha and Meyer probably would not have been a problem. It was more chakras after those very late 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, all-nighters, that was a concern. He also told me how people commented to him when for the first 72 years of his life, he would walk out at Yizkor, "Don't you love your parents?" And Jerry would say, very much, and thank God I still have both of them. He was at Minyan regularly, before his father passed, and certainly, of course, during that year and certainly afterwards. He learned Torah, first Daf Yomi, and then he started learning with Baruch Erblich at a pace which worked better for him. And the two of them turned into a Chevra, a group that now learns Gemara daily after davening. The siyum we're going to hear tonight, as you note on your program for tonight, is just Jerry's crescendo of what the two of them started together. Jerry had a love of sports, of Star Trek, and of wrestling. When he was in Shloshim for his father, he wanted to feel the Avelis. And he said, what should I do? The wrestling. I said, Jerry, will wrestling make you feel, will giving up the wrestling for a month make you feel sad? He said, absolutely. I said, and give up the wrestling. He said, I'm going to do it for my father. Along with his co-conspirators, he started the men's club at Anshe Chesed. And guess what the first regular event of the men's club was? Thursday night Mishmar and Shalom. Of course. Other events too, sports games and the cruise, which is going to take place towards the beginning of the season in November or December. Always asking me, as he reminded me, you are now my rabbi. Jerry, you lived all your whole life in Queens. You are now my rabbi. Is this event appropriate? How can we do it right? If you think this is too much, or if it's something which we shouldn't be doing, we won't do it. Sometimes parents are given a certain element of Ruach HaKodesh when they name a child. Jerry's Hebrew name? Yom Tov. Right? What does Yom Tov mean? A holiday? A good day. Every day you were around Jerry was indeed a Yom Tov. Aside from the way that we normally use that phrase, we'll be hearing one more way on Yom Kippur. That the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, when he would emerge unscathed from the Holy of Holies, feeling as if his work was accomplished, that his mission for the year was fulfilled, he would make a Yom Tov HaYoseh. He would make a Yom Tov for everyone who was in his life, or everyone who would visit. I do not know what that Yom Tov looked like, but I imagine it was a celebration of God, of life, of just bringing and sharing Simchas HaChaim to and with others, the joy of life. And that is what Jerry was, and that is what Jerry remains for us. An eternal Yom Tov, bringing a smile out of others, capturing that smile forever, and bringing joy to the thousands of people he touched through his career and in his personal life. Doing good, being a good day for everybody, because it was right, and always living a life of Kiddush Hashem. We remember him fondly, we will listen terribly and dearly. And now I'm just going to call your attention to the next 5 tributes which will be given as the program. They're introduced on the paper which you were given. I'll just read the names of who's going to be speaking. Jason Meyer, Jerry's son. Sandy Spalter, Jerry's sister. Max Berlin, Jerry's son-in-law. Ira Plotkin, very, very long-time friend. And Steve Savitsky, also a very long-time friend who could not be here tonight, but made a video recording which we will display on the wall when when the other tributes are finished. After that, we will have a siyum, as I mentioned before, and then a presentation, as you see on the page wall. Okay, Jason.
The night of Shloshim, the 30th day period after the death of my father. Before I begin, I'd like to first thank Hashem for giving me my father for the last 45 years. I would also like to thank once again and give a curse to all the doctors, nurses, family, and friends who helped us through the most difficult times in our lives. I do not thank you enough for all the support that you had given us. My father, Hachavar Yom Tov ben Hachavar Avraham, was born to Helen and Arnold Meyer on November 20th, 1944. A larger-than-life personality, a Jewish celebrity with a smile that could light up the room. That was my dad. An amazing son, husband to the love of his life, Essie, father to myself, Alana, Max, and Lauren, brother to Sandy, grandfather to Rebecca, Abraham, Amanda, Zachary, Haley, Mo, and Nate. As I attempted to come up with some words that best describe my father, many words came to mind, but love and respect were the ones that hit home to me. I can't imagine anyone in the world that he came into contact with that he did not love and respect. My father did not have a single bad bone in his body. A friend of mine best described him as a gentle giant. He was always there for anyone that needed him or needed his help, whether you were his immediate family or someone that he just met. He did not pry into why you needed his help. He was just there to provide any help he can, no questions asked. This held true to his business as well. His profession was something that one may call a passion more than a job. He loved each and every client as if they were part of his own family. He felt that he was so lucky to see everyone in their happiest moments, and he so loved celebrating with his extended family. Family and friends were everything to my father. He did not have a large family, but what small family he did have, he loved with all of his heart. His grandchildren were his pride and joy, and nothing gave him more pleasure than attending all the activities that they would participate in. He didn't care what the event was. He was just happy to be there watching the children in all their enjoyment. The love he had for his parents was truly something special. The respect he showed to his mother and his father until the very end was something that I could only hope to one day be able to emulate. He loved my mother unconditionally. My parents met when they were teenagers in sleepaway camp and have been inseparable ever since. They worked together, formed a love of travel, and stood by each other for over 50 years of marriage. There was nothing he wouldn't do for my mother, and that included sharing her love for Star Trek. I will miss my dad more than any of you can know. Not only did I lose my father, I lost my brother, my mentor, my business partner, and my best friend. It was a privilege to work with such a kind-hearted man. He taught me how to be a great father, how to navigate through the day-to-day challenges of raising a family can bring, and I am the man I am because of him. He taught me compassion, honesty, business, ethics, and of course, how to love and respect everyone. I'm sure he's looking down on us tonight with a big smile on his face. Thank you.
I just want to say, writing the speech, the thought, the love in the speech, that was the easy part. Reading it tonight when Jerry's not here, that's the hard part, but I'll try. Growing up, not only was I blessed with a wonderful mom and dad, but also a most wonderful brother. Kind, caring, generous were only a few of his wonderful traits. Jerry and I were always very close. We had an unusual relationship, unusually great. I don't remember ever fighting with Jerry, even though we were very different. For example, I remember going to New York years ago because Jerry and Essie were honored at a Bikur Cholim dinner. I asked Jerry if he was buying a new suit for the occasion, and he said yes. I said, great. When I come up to New York, we will choose a shirt and tie together. That is something we did a lot. I would go into his closet, and he would take out all his suits and his shirts and his ties, and I would help match. When I got to New York, I asked Jerry to show me the new suit. Jerry said, there's a slight problem. He bought the suit, however, the tailor said it won't be ready till Monday. The dinner is Sunday. That won't work. I made Jerry take me to the neighborhood store, House of Jacks, if you remember, where he bought all his clothes. He didn't want to because he didn't want me to cause a scene. However, he knew once I had something in my head, there was no stopping me. We went to the store together Friday morning. I spoke to the tailor and said Monday is unacceptable since the dinner is Sunday evening. This is no way to treat a long-time customer. The tailor looked at me, and then he told us to come back in 2 hours and the suit would be done. Both Jerry and I were happy. He had a beautiful new suit, a new shirt, and a new tie for the honoring. Jerry always did what my parents asked. The word no was not in his vocabulary. He was the most amazing and respectful son. Jerry fulfilled the mitzvah of kibbud av v'aim to the nth degree. I remember when Jerry was dating Essie, my mom gave him a dime for the phone booth. There were no cell phones at the time. Jerry, she said, you know I worry, so please, if you're home past 12 o'clock, you need to call me. Guess what? He did, every date. Essie wanted to break up with him many, many times. She didn't have to call her parents. But Essie, as smart as she is, knew that such a great son would make a great husband, a great father. Boy, was she right. Jerry met Essie at Camp Sherwin when she was 15. They met at the canteen, both wanting a Charleston Chew candy bar. Problem was, there was only one. Jerry bought it, and they both shared it. As they shared that candy bar, they shared their lives. It was always Jerry, Essie, Essie, Jerry, one word. They were always known as the best couple. They met their soulmates, their bashert. Their love and respect for each other shined on their faces and knew no bounds. They even dressed alike with matching shirts and matching hats. They were one. Jerry and Essie got married Sunday, March 10th, approximately 50 years ago. The very next night, Jerry had a wedding and got dressed to leave. Essie was upset, to say the least. "Where are you going?" she asked. "No Sheva brachas?" Jerry answered and said he was building a future for the two of them. Essie had a choice. Does she pursue her own career and never see Jerry, or does she work with him and spend 24/7 with him? Essie made the right decision and became Jerry's partner and right hand at Jerry Meyer studio. They both worked long and hard hours side by side and made it into a very successful business. Being together night and day doesn't work for everybody, but it did work for them. There is a saying, behind every great man is a great woman. I would change it to say, beside every great man is a great woman. Years later, when the Jerry Meyer studio house caught on fire, Jerry and Essie had a decision to make. Do they sell the house and retire after working hard for so many years? Or do they help their son Jason and rebuild the business? I remember growing up, my father always said that it's a father's responsibility to make sure that your son has parnassa. Jerry and Essie knew it wasn't much of a decision at all. They moved the Jerry Meyer studio to the 5 towns so that Jason wouldn't have to commute and he could be close to his young, growing family. Jerry was always so proud of Jason. Jason followed in Jerry's footsteps, his kindness, his easygoing manner, his good business ethics, and his sterling reputation. Since my dad died 3.5 years ago, Jerry took it upon himself to call my mom every Saturday night immediately after Shabbos to recite Havdalah over the phone. Now Jason, again following Jerry's footsteps, has taken over the custom. This kindness and compassion towards Grandma makes her feel so special and loved. Jason, thank you. Lauren is following in Essie's footsteps as well and is working hard along with Jason at the Jerry Meyer studio. Jerry was always proud of his beautiful daughter, Ilana. She also has the same gift of kindness and compassion for others. She is a very successful life coach at Optavia, helping her clients overcome any and all obstacles to get to their life goals. In a short time, she now holds a leadership position in the company. Ilana holds a very special place in my mom's heart. Her generosity and attention over the years holds no bounds. Both Ilana and Jason are exemplary children and grandchildren. Family was everything to Jerry. He loved his grandchildren with all his heart. Jerry's personality was such, to know him is to love him. Maybe because his life was filled with so many simchas day to day, capturing people's most important wedding day. His face and smile radiate that simcha. I am sure everyone in this room was touched by Jerry's love of life, incredible generosity, and genuine sincerity. When I sat Shiva, someone called me from New York that I knew a long time ago. She wanted to share a story with me and the family. Many years ago, she got divorced, and when it came to making her son a bar mitzvah, she didn't have a lot of money. She wanted to use Jerry for the pictures because she, like everyone else, knew that he was the best. Jerry said, "No problem, you can pay me monthly whatever you can afford." It took 3 years to pay for the pictures, and this kindness was something she will never forget. Like this story, over the years, there were many similar stories, but not all ending in a zero balance. Growing up in New York, my claim to fame was that I was Jerry Meyer's sister. I was always so proud of that title. Never was there one bit of jealousy or envy. He was my favorite person. I thank my brother for helping me start with Soros Avraham, a shiva gemach in Miami Beach named after our dad. Jerry wasn't satisfied with status quo. He was always thinking, what more can I do? What else is needed to further help people? That was Jerry, always wanting to help, always wanting to do more and more. Jerry was blessed with a lot of my dad's wonderful traits. He had his good name and even had the same title, Chaber, a special knighthood from the German community. Like my father, Jerry never spoke Lashon Hara, always looking at the positive in people and all situations. There was never any jealousy or envy. Jerry's generosity knew no bounds. He knew what I needed before I even had to ask. Jerry was always there for me and my family, emotionally as well as financially. And Essie was right beside him, united. All decisions they did as one. They were a team. I remember all the Pesach that Jerry and Essie took his family, my parents and my family away to a hotel so that we could all be together. They worked hard, they shared with all of us, creating lasting memories. Before I close, we all should give a special thanks to Max and Ilana for pushing Jerry and Essie to buy a house, retire, and move to Boynton. They both loved Boynton and made so many wonderful friends. I never saw Jerry and Essie so happy as these past 3+ years. Max and Ilana, you gave them a gift of a wonderful life, peace, and enjoyment. My mom loves Boynton as well. She couldn't wait to leave Tower 41 every other weekend and be with Jerry and Essie. She loved the attention that only Jerry could give her, driving her all around all day Thursday from store to store. My mom loves going on errands as long as she is sitting next to her son, Jerry. Thursday night was the Chinese restaurant and Friday the beauty shop. Again, he was the most exceptional son and always wanted to make her happy. My mom also loves Boynton, the shul, the rabbi, and all the wonderful friends. Everyone here made her feel special, loved, and showered her with attention. I'll never forget when it was birthday and the rabbi spoke about her in shul, something that she will never forget, and she still talks about. Lastly, there is no understandable reason that Jerry left us at such an early age. Gedolim say that when good people leave this world early, it's because Hashem wants the good guys with him. This time, Hashem took the best. I will miss him each and every day. Thank you.
And my nieces and nephews are watching on Facebook Live. I think that's the game. To speak for only a few minutes about a lifetime seems impossible to me. It's even harder when I have the opportunity to speak about my father-in-law, Jerry Meyer, Achaver Yom Tov, ben Achaver Avraham. My father-in-law had 3 big passions in his life: family, mitzvos, and his profession of being a photographer. My in-laws were married for 51 years. Meeting in summer camp, they claimed to never have a fight, and that's true, because my mother-in-law wouldn't allow it. There was no fight. He did whatever she told him to do. They spent more time together than any couple I have ever met. They worked in the studio together, they ate lunch together, talked about jobs together, and when their day was over, they'd go home together. It was a beautiful relationship that I think most of us in the family took for granted. When my father-in-law accompanied me to Philadelphia for the Ufra for my son Avraham, walking to shul Friday night, he said to me, "You know, I can't recall ever being away from Shabbos without Essie since before I was married. He said it in such an unassuming manner, but looking in his eyes, he really missed her. Although we were together for a simcha, his beloved Essie wasn't with him, and I could see without her, he just wasn't whole. For as long as any of us in the family can remember, there was mom, there was dad, one right with the other. His love for his parents, his kibbud of aim, was renowned. No one had a closer relationship to his mother, and I mean no one, than my father-in-law. To speak to his mother, Helen, 5 times a day wasn't out of the norm for him. She would call him on his way to Shacharis in the morning, on his way home. Cherry, have you eaten yet? Why not? What have you eaten? Middle of the day, Cherry, are you leaving for the job soon? Ma, in a few minutes, I'm leaving, he would reply, don't worry. In the evening, Cherry, what time are you going to get home? Are you done with the job? What's going on? When it's over, Mom, that's time I'm going to be home. Midnight, we'll see. At night, she would call again. Cherry, where are you? Still on the job? Okay, I guess it's 6 times she would talk to me. Then once again, on his way home from a wedding in Brooklyn, New Jersey, or the 5 towns, there she was calling again. Cherry, why aren't you home yet? And if God forbid he was stuck in traffic, she would call and ask, Cherry, you're not home? What happened? What's going on with the traffic today? He would reply, Ma, I'm in traffic, and getting home to Kew Garden Hills from the Sheraton Meadowlands takes a little bit longer than 5 minutes. It was my mother-in-law who would say to him, Jeremiah, as she so lovingly called him, why not just lie to your mother and tell her you're home? His reply was always simple. I can't lie to my mother. This was the amazing bond he held with his mother. Jerry's father, our grandfather, Arnold Meyer, was the reason my father-in-law was in the photography business. His high school needed someone to take pictures for their yearbook, and his father had just been given a Polaroid camera from his work as a gift. My father-in-law volunteered to take the yearbook pictures with the Polaroid, and the rest is history. First time I met Arnold Meyer, he said to me, Max, you know what Jerry is? Why Jerry's in the photography business? I shook my head. No, I didn't know. He pointed to himself, because of me. Jerry was his pride and joy, and he wanted everybody to know it. My father-in-law's love for his family goes way beyond what a normal father does. My wife, Alana, tells a story. It was October 17th, 1986. My father-in-law's beloved Mets were playing in Game 7 of the World Series. He had tickets and was ready to go, but the game had been rained out twice the previous nights. And that night, the night of Game 7, he was promised to take Alana to the city to see a Lionel Richie concert at Madison Square Garden. It was Game 7! Without even batting an eye, he and Alana made the drive past Shea into the city to see the concert. He had a transistor radio to his ear, but he wasn't going to disappoint his daughter, even if it meant missing a chance to see his beloved Mets win the World Series. When they left the garden, driving back to the Queens Midtown Tunnel, all the cars were flashing their lights and honking their horns. Ilana turned to Dad and said, Daddy, what's going on? Without raising his voice, without sounding disappointed, he said, the Mets just won the World Series. And he drove home, I'm sure smiling all the way. That's the kind of man he was, never putting himself first, but always his family. When I became part of the family years later, I asked him about that story, not believing anyone could miss a Game 7. He told me, one day you'll have kids of your own and you'll understand. Daddy, I still don't understand. It was Game 7! When it came to the act of doing mitzvot, no one was prouder to do a mitzvah than my father-in-law. When I became a member of family, I noticed the beautiful silver my in-laws had acquired over their time together. I never understood why the only silver they really had was just silver that had to do with mitzvahs. Whether it was a huge silver Astro box or the Megillah case that was so large we didn't know where to put it when he came into shul, or the beautiful lighter my mother used to lit before Shabbos, the washing station, the Seder plate, I thought it was well and nice until he took a family trip to Israel for Sukkot. My father-in-law was set on buying me a silver Astro box for the Chag. What I didn't understand was his love for the mitzvah done for just 1 week a year was so special to him. The case needed for the Ezra couldn't be just a plain box. To Hashem, he wanted to show his love for the mitzvah, and that is why Even the cases and the outside of the mitzvahs were as important as the inside and the actual doing of the mitzvah. He spent days going from store to store until we found the perfect esrog box. As I learned later, he spent even longer picking out the esrog that went inside. He wanted not the biggest esrog, but the one that stood out and one that he would say was the perfect esrog for the mitzvah. He enjoyed the whole aspect of the mitzvahs from beginning until the end. He would go on to buy each of his grandchildren their tefillin when they became a bar mitzvah. So proud to hand it off to them, beaming with joy, as if it was his bar mitzvah as well. To me, that was always the proudest I'd ever seen him, handing those tefillin off to my son Moshe. Just this year, in his last trip to Israel, he decided, even though it was 2 years early, he was going to buy his youngest grandchild, Nate, his tefillin. For some reason, he thought, now was just the right time to buy those tefillin, even if it was 2 years too early. Daddy, now we know why you did it. Our boys, Zachary, Mo, and Nate, will be able to put on their tefillin every day, knowing it was their grandfather who personally picked out their tefillin with such care, such joy, just like you did with every mitzvah you ever completed. One of the greatest attributes of my father-in-law was the way in which he conducted his business. Coming from a very humble upbringing, to which his father taught him not only the hard work, but also the way one conducts himself professionally. Being one of the largest Jewish photographers has its ups and its downs. My father-in-law would always say, photographers never get a do-over. I hope and I have to get the shot. Dealing with some of the Jewish clientele in the greater New York area wasn't always a picnic, but he always made it look as if he was having the time of his life, smiling and making all those Shloshim and Kalas breathe a little easier when he was around, giving them comfort and walking them through the stress of picture taking at a wedding. As he would always tell me, one side is going to be upset because I took 10 more pictures of the bride than the groom. The mother will be upset because I shot her on the left side and I was supposed to only shoot her right side. That's the business. But he handled it all with ease, and for the most part, I, for one, never saw him get upset or utter a negative word under his breath. He was the Tom Brady of Jewish wedding and simple photography. He knew how to get the shot, and he took it. A famous story he would tell us was when he was at a bris at Rav Moshe Feinstein Yeshiva on the Lower East Side. He was preparing to shoot the simcha when someone from the yeshiva had asked him to please not take any pictures of Rav Moshe while he was davening. My father-in-law never wanted to start problems in any way, understood, and was prepared to wait until after davening to take any pictures. Standing outside the base medrash, the mother, or the mother-in-law of the baby, asked my father-in-law why he wasn't inside shooting pictures of the davening. He explained to her that someone had asked him not to take pictures during davening, especially of Rav Moshe. Without a blink, the mother said, "Is Rav Moshe paying you to be on this job?" "I am. Get back inside." Without hesitation, he picked up the camera and back into the base medrash he went. The customer, he would say, was always right. He once again worked his way up to the front and began to set up for the bris that would be beginning in a very short time. Then he noticed, Rav Moshe was davening his morning Shema. Everyone who knows my father-in-law knows when I say he got into his photographer mode. He quickly moved into position, and right at the perfect moment, he captured what I believe is one of the few pictures of Rav Moshe kissing his tallis during Shema. It became a famous picture that adorned the cover of Rav Moshe's ArtScroll biography. For years, he was never credited with that photograph. But finally, a few years later, the publisher of ArtScroll made a deal with him. They'd give him credit for the picture and also a free book. I'm not sure he ever received the book, but knowing my father-in-law, I'm not sure it mattered. He had taken the paramount picture of the greatest gadol of our day, and that's what mattered to him. The original was given to my son Mo, and is hanging in our home in Detroit today. A memory not only of Rav Moshe, but of what work meant to my father-in-law. That's why he took pictures. That's what he was trying to capture. My father-in-law was a man without a bad bone in his body. He was a happy man who had for himself the perfect family, the perfect wife, and the perfect life. While we miss him dearly, Hashem has other plans. We can't ask ourselves why. Maybe he needed to be somewhere else. Maybe he needed a photographer in Shemayim to calm everybody down and tell them everything's going to be okay. And for all of us to learn from his mitzvos, the way he conducted himself, and the way he loved his family, and the way all of us will always love him.
I now have an empty pen, as every person, starting with Artie and ending Max, said virtually everything that I was going to say. So this is going to be tough, and I feel bad for Steve Savitsky, who's going next, because
You can't cross it.
I can't imagine that I'm not going to hit the one or two things that maybe he didn't. But, you know, they say if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. And there's not a person in this room who did not stand up here, whether you know Jerry for 47 years like Connie and I do, or you know him for the time he's been here, and not give the exact same impression of who he is and what he stands for. So this was a hard and an easy task. Easy because it's easy to talk about Jerry, a larger-than-life figure, and someone that no one is going to say, you're not saying something that's in us. Difficult because it's a contemporary. You know, when someone dies and they're 90, it's sad, but it's not tragic. And when it happens personally and closer to home, and it's your own contemporary, it puts the whole perspective in a very, very different way. Connie and I have been part of the Meyer family for quite a while. Connie and Essie were in first grade together, went through YCQ, went to Central together, sort of parted ways a little bit, and then 47 years ago, I gotta watch Connie that she doesn't catch me in the numbers. 47 years ago, we went to look at a house, and we saw one on 77th Road, and having both lived in Bayside, and then got married, we lived in Forest Hills, we really didn't know Kew Gardens Hills too well. And then Connie says, oh, look down the block. There was a shingle, Jerry Meyer Studios. She said, I went to school with Essie. So we knocked on the door, and Connie and Essie hugged and renewed friendship, and Jerry and I became fast and close friends, and raised our kids together. I even worked with Jerry a little bit. You know that Essie and Jerry are good if they got Connie to go camping. You know, I mean that was something special. And Jerry, whether he was in family, whether he was in business, whether it was the community, he was Jeremiah. He was the same person, conducted himself in the same way. So there's a machlokas about whether the Shloshim and a Siyam is for the neshama or is it for the people who are alive. And when I speak at a Sheva Bracha, I usually start with a very short thing about whether for the week of Sheva Brachas, the couple are king and queen. Is it for the first month that they're married, the first 30 days, or is it for the first year? And my answer, which rings more true than ever before with Jerry and Essie, is that they remain a king and a queen as long as they continue to treat each other that way. And that's exactly the kind of marriage that Jerry and Essie had, not only treating each other that way, but their respective parents. Their parents were their in-laws. It was back and forth. There was really, really, really no different. Okay, all these 5 cards are covered by other people. You know, the whole family, it was extended. Jerry was a larger-than-life figure in the community. It's just unbelievable. So I just heard something recently about when the Queen of England dies, her personal secretary will send a memo. London Bridge has fallen to the media, and they will then know that the Queen was dead. And I said, wow, they have to have a secretary, and they have to send out official notice. I said, wow, in the greater Jewish community, whether it's in New York City, whether it's in Muncie, whether it's in Detroit, the work of a well-known community figure like Jerry Meyer didn't need a royal send-off, didn't need notices. Everyone heard about it. Everyone was shocked, and everyone was taken aback the same way. He really was not just part of the family. He was part of a greater network or a greater family. So we did a lot of things together. Jerry was always interested in family. Jerry was intergenerational. When he was young, he would be able to talk to young people and older people. When he was older, he would be able to talk to young people and older people. And the rabbi mentioned that Jerry had a relationship with his daughter, and people mentioned how with older people and also. So Jerry and Essie were honored. Actually, Jerry was honored, and Essie allowed him to say yes. That was not a skill that Jerry had, saying no. Jerry did not develop that skill. And what was he interested in being honored? The only thing he's interested in is he wanted it to be a family event. He tried as hard as he could to make it a weekend, because he wanted families to be together for Shabbos. He wanted to bring the shul together. And for financial reasons, he couldn't even dig into his pocket that far without Essie knowing to make the weekend possible. But he did insist that the shul dinner be open to children. And he made sure there was a special buffet, smorgasbord, for children with hot dogs and hamburgers and French fries. And of course, the problem was all the adults were out there with the kids lined up for the hot dogs and frankfurters. But he was very much in favor of including family, and that was the mantra of Jerry's life. He set an example for everyone for how he and Essie took care of their respective parents, and how he takes care of his mother on a day-to-day basis. And clearly, the lesson was taught. We always teach about how we teach our children through example, not through talking about it. And the way that the Meyer children stepped up to the plate, visiting them in the hospital, seeing Jerry deteriorating, and the way that they respected him and treated him was just clearly the epitome of how a Karasatov should be to a family, how Kibbutz Avein should go, and it was just an amazing thing that just really touched everyone that had any relation, with them. Jerry, what you saw here, what he did with the men's club, is exactly the way he conducted his life. He got an idea, he got people on board with him, he was willing to pitch in and work, he got other people to work. His smile, his winning way, his emistic way, just really worked, just amazing. People could not say no to him. It was just nearly very impossible to do that. So his neshama should be looking out over all of us, as Jerry always cared for people and know that we are all going to be there for Essie and for the kids as they go on. And in fact, he's going to be with us, because everyone will be able to say, whether it's a family event or whether it's a men's club event or something in business, they're going to say, I know what Jerry Meyer would have done in this situation. He would have been respectful, he would have been honest, he would have been sincere, and he would have done it in the halachically and socially correct way. So while we're all going to miss him, he's living in each of us in terms of the way he lived his life was the way that he really believed everyone should.
I am very sorry that I cannot be there this evening for the kavod ha'acharon for my very dear, wonderful friend, Hechaver Yantov ben Hechaver Avraham. I wish I could be there personally. I always knew that sometime I would be speaking in Boynton Beach about Jerry, but I assumed it would be when they honored him for all the work he did for the congregation and for the community. He loved Boynton Beach, he loved his shul, and he looked forward to a very long life together with Essie. She should live and be well in that community. And so we were all so sad, so heartbroken, when so quickly he was taken from us. Most people have two names, their first name and their second name. Jeremiah had one name. He was a brand before people understood what a brand meant. What was the brand? Sure, the brand was photography, but it was much more than photography. It was chesed, it was kindness, it was caring, it was concerned. That's why people use Jerry Meyer, because you knew if you made a wedding, and we all know what happens when you make a wedding, so many sides coming together. All of a sudden, there are 2 families, maybe 4 families. In today's life, maybe 8 families. There's an aunt that no one ever talked to and a cousin that nobody likes. You knew when Jerry came, you didn't have to worry. He would take care of it. He would make sure that everything went well. And that's why people had Jerry Meyer Studios all the time. I know how hard Jerry worked. I would watch him during the season, night after night, day after day. Never complained. Always looked forward to the next simcha. And he always told me how fortunate he was that his entire life could be spent at wonderful occasions when people were celebrating bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs or weddings. It was truly amazing. It's not easy being friends with somebody whose most important day that he looked forward to was the 17th of Tammuz. It was the beginning of the 3 weeks. That's when Jerry wanted to take his vacations. Could you think of an exciting place we can go for the 9 days? No, not really. I'd rather stay home. But yet, we found a way of working together to go on vacations. And we try to go during the 3 weeks, but we'd come home before the 9 days. And those vacations were certainly unbelievable. Jerry would prepare, he'd get ready, he'd go to 12 stores to buy whatever we needed to make sure that we had just the right coleslaw and just the right pickles and just the right meat. Whatever it was, Jerry wanted to make sure it was just perfect. And of course, we wanted to go to places where Jerry said no one would know him because he didn't want to be around people then. He wanted to relax. I remember taking a walk with him on the beach in St. Martin. It was so beautiful. It was early in the morning. And all of a sudden, someone says, "Jerry Meyer, you did my wedding. How are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. I guess it's another ruined vacation." Or I remember when we went to Israel, and we got a ride from a woman. And she said, "Jerry, you did my wedding 20 years ago. You think you could touch up some of the pictures?" That's the way it was with Jerry, no matter where he was. It wasn't Jerry Meyer as an individual, it was Jerry Meyer as an enterprise. Whenever we took a vacation, Jerry always wanted to learn. He would set a precedent and say, "This time, Steve, we're going to learn Pirkei Avos." And every single day, no matter what happened, he always made sure that we would learn. During the last few weeks, it has been very, very difficult. But I know even in the beginning, when he first found out that he wasn't well, and we saw his children, we saw Ilana and Max, and Jason and Lauren, how they rose to the occasion, the love, the kavod they showed for him. It was so beautiful, and I know Jerry appreciated it. And all of us who saw it said, "Jerry and Essie, you did a great job. You raised wonderful children who understand what it's like to have parents who care and are concerned about you." Jerry was a great son. I always wished I could be as good a son as Jerry was. His relationship with his father was so close, it was just amazing. And then, until the very end, with his mother, she should be well, the way he spoke to her every day, and he was concerned for her, and would come down to drive down to Miami to be there. He was a wonderful, wonderful husband. I know personally from all the vacations we took how much he adored Essie and what a wonderful couple they were together. They were inseparable. They were together all the time. He was a very dear friend to so many people. Everyone you spoke to said, "Jerry Meyer, he's my friend." Well, he was everyone's friend, and he was everyone's friend because he cared. His loss is a great loss, of course, for us, for me, and for Jeannie, and for our entire family. But it's a loss for the whole Jewish community. So many people cared about Jerry. People called me. It was so interesting in my own community as I would take a walk down the street. People would come over to me to be Menachem Oval because they knew the relationship that we had together. It's a relationship that can't be replaced. Memories I'll have, but I won't have Jerry. And that makes me so sad as we enter the new year, Rosh Hashanah. And I think about the fact that Jerry would always call me before every one of the holidays to wish me a good Yontif and to talk to me. And Jerry would call me every time he had to speak. Any kind of speech he had to give, it didn't make a difference. He always called me, "Steve, I wrote a speech. What do you think about it?" And I said, "Jerry, the speech is great because you're giving it." And of course now that he's not here anymore, we're going to miss that. It's very difficult to end this very short eulogy And Essie, I wish I was there to give it to you personally. But in trying to think of what I could say at the very end, I could only go back to the Sefer of Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, the prophet. Jeremiah, who spoke about doom and gloom, but also spoke about hope. And there was such a beautiful pasuk that I saw. Ko amar Hashem, minei kolech, mibechi, ve'einech, midima, ki yesh sacha lepulosech. Hashem says, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for there is reward for your accomplishments. Rav Soloveitchik says acts of kindness are the most important thing. We are here, of course we're going to cry, but the Navi says, Yirmiyahu says, try to restrain yourself from your tears, because you know today Jerry is in a better place. And it's a place in which all of his acts of kindness are now going to be taken into account. Hashem welcomes him and says, Jerry, you took care of thousands and thousands of people, a chassan and a kala, and a family that you brought into your world. So we know that today, even though we miss him terribly, in the Olam Emes, he's getting his just reward. Yehi Zichro Baruch.
Of people, those who go through life without actually taking part in their community, and those who do. Our friend Jerry Meyer was one of those who did. Jerry's passing impacted not only his wife Essie and the Meyer family, but also his friends and community. Even before Jerry and Essie moved to Boynton Beach, Jerry was a part of many of our lives. The Jerry Meyer studio gave us wonderful photographic memories, marking many of our family milestones, be it weddings, bar or bat mitzvahs, and other simchas with his professional photography skills. Jerry's can-do spirit, his infectious smile, and his upbeat, optimistic demeanor made him a pleasure to be around. He never had a bad word to say about anyone. If anything, he was always an encouraging presence who made you feel better about yourself. Jerry was always looking to see what he could do to improve the welfare of his community. In the short time that Jerry had been in Boynton Beach, he quickly became active in the activities of Majestic Isles, where he and Essie resided. He was the photographer for those who play pickleball. He helped plan and organize kosher food for the clubhouse events, and most recently joined the planning committee for Majestic Isles. As a member of Anshe Chesed, Jerry threw himself wholeheartedly into our shul life, whether it was at the daily minyanim, working on the many social committees, or as an active board member. He recently started the successful men's club. As president of the men's club, he initiated Mishmar, which is our men's study learning Cholent Kugel get-together. Jerry helped organize many of the men's club's activities, such as baseball games, fishing outings, and even a cruise. As a lasting remembrance of Jerry, we, his friends, thought it would be most fitting to present this Bein Gavra to the shul, which is an embroidered covering that is placed over the Torah in between the aliyahs. The embroidery on this cover reads as follows: in memory of Jerry Meyer, HaChaver, Yom Tov ben HaChaver, Avram Zecher Levracha, donated by his friends, 2019, 5779. Jerry's many friends have been so generous that we are also able to present to the shul in his memory books for Tisha B'Av services, as well as Machzorim for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Jerry was a devoted son to his mother, Helen Meyer, a loving husband to Essie, beloved father to his children, Ilana and Max, Jason and Lauren, a proud grandfather to his wonderful grandchildren, and a kind brother-in-law to his sister Sandy and her husband Artie Spalter. Yehi Zichrona Baruch. May his memory be for a blessing.